Please welcome to the stage Concordia's Matthew Swift and Goldie Hawn of MindUP and the Goldie Hawn Foundation.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I am
And
too.
I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for coming to the 15th Concordia Annual Summit. It means so much.
It means a lot to me, too. You're doing amazing work, bringing in a lot of perspectives everywhere, and giving us a more understanding of certain areas and aspects of our world. It's very, very important. So I'm very happy to be here.
I want to start with this because
Okay.
I think the majority of the people at this summit work in business, work in government, work in the philanthropic sector.
Mm-hmm.
But very few people come to this summit with your life experiences, the different decades you've been at the height of acting and your philanthropy being for over 20 years with your foundation. But first, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the time we're in right now. And when you look back on your life and you look back on your career, how would you frame what this time is?
Well, that's a big question. How do I look at now? I think we're in complete frenzy. We don't know where to turn. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, tremendous uncertainty. There's tremendous depression. There's anxiety. There are children who are suffering. There are basically our teenagers are suffering. And also the relationship we have to each other is really suffering. And I think that this is one of the areas that I know we're being tactical. I know we have to do our job. I know we have to understand this. Oh, I'm in HR. Oh, I'm going to be doing this. Or I'm literally, changing the world in my way. But if we don't stop and we don't understand, ultimately, that we, the human, is alive and well, and how are we looking at each other? Not each other, ourselves. So this is the area when I look at back in the 60s. I remember the assassinations. I remember crying. I remember when I was afraid of the Cold War, and I ducked under a desk, and I learned this thing that happened in school, and I was so traumatized by it. I was 12 years old that literally I lied to the teacher. I was shaking, and I ran home, and I talked to my mom, and I said, "Mom, we're all going to die." I believed that at 12 years old. Well, my mother gave me some critical thinking. She told me, Russia is too far away, sweetheart. And the atom bomb can't reach here. And by the way, isn't that keep us from being, enemies? Doesn't it help us stay peaceful and friendly? And I looked into that, but it took me years to get over it. So what are we giving our children today? What are they feeling today? And that's what I look at. So when we say, where are we today? We're a mess. I mean, people are really unsure. They don't know how to talk to anybody. Is that person believe what I believe in? Is that person going to be, a friend? Or do I need to talk to them because I believe so much that I don't want to talk to them at all? How many people have lost their friends? How many people are not engaging? How many people are feeling more lonely than ever? This is terrible. Human beings have an amazing capacity to love, an amazing capacity to share. And we are little animals here that need each other. We need to belong. We're tribal in mentality. We're losing it. So I think the most important part of where we are today is that we're beginning to lose our footing on what it is to be human.
So in order to get our footing back, when I think about the work you've done with MindUP, I think about emotional resilience.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means that, as I said to my son, who was a hockey player, he had a concussion. I went to Toronto. He was sitting there in a black room looking at his team either win or lose because he was a hockey player and he couldn't play. And I took him to breakfast and I said, you know what? The mark of the man is not how many times you get knocked down. It's how fast you get up, honey. How fast are you going to get up? And that's what I look at, the grit and the ability to have resilience in the face of obstacle. And in the face of really when things aren't going well. Now, there's no prescriptive for that except a mindset. So when I look at what is our mindset, what is our state of mind today, that ultimately will lead you to the next thing you do, the next way you relate, and a world that you will create. So your mindset itself and how you understand your brain and understand aspects of your brain that can be your friend that most of us don't know anything about, which is why 22 years ago, I had this crazy idea of creating a program that was based in neuroscience. Why aren't we teaching children at that time about their brain? We asked them to use it. We asked them to refer. They asked them to pay attention. We asked them to quiet down. But they don't know how to use their brain. They know nothing about it. So that's why I started with neuroscience.
And I remember you came to Concordia a few years ago to talk about the work of MindUP. And then you and I started talking. And we've had over almost 4,000 speakers over the last 15 years at the 52 summits we've hosted.
So awesome. I love it.
And everyone's got their different objectives and priorities. But when we sat down, I remember sort of thinking, whoa, this is very, very real for you. And you are so genuine in your approach on this subject. What about some of your life experiences led you to not only focus on mental health, but frankly, to really focus on the brain more broadly?
Well, let's see. What I believe happened to me was that the first thing that happened to me was the fear of the atom bomb. It was profound and traumatic. I finally got over that, but I was a dancer, and people then used to ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was 11 years old. Some of you may have heard this before, but they asked me what I wanted to be, and I said, happy. And they looked at me, and I thought that was kind of weird. They were looking at me funny, and I said, no, we mean, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be happy. And the question there is, why did I want to be happy? What was I thinking at 11 years old? That maybe when I grew up, I wouldn't be happy? Or maybe that there were aspects of me not wanting to grow up at all, to keep the child in me, afraid I would lose that to become one of those grown-up people that aren't that happy? I don't know. But then I know that when that happened to me, when I was in New York, and I wasn't in New York, I was in LA, and I was doing a TV show, and I was pulled out of the chorus line without getting into detail. And an agent saw me, took me in, went to William Morris, met everybody. I was just a dancer, and I was so happy that I had finally made it to be on television on those shows. I was really excited. But the next thing I know, they said, oh, well, we'll sign her. What do you do? I just have a feeling about her. I just whatever. And I went, oh, okay. And then next thing I know, I'm signed at William Morris, the biggest agency. And I had my biggest event dancing on the Andy Griffith special. And then I went for an audition right away. And the guy said, oh, she's too young for that. And I went, oh, well, I'll go to the audition. Okay, if you want me to. So I went to the audition. Turns out that I get a call that night, and they said, Goldie, you got the part. And I said, I got the part? But I'm too young for the part. And they said, no, they wrote a part in for you. So at that point in time, I should have been really happy. I should have been excited. But my life plan was not that. My life plan was dance on shows and maybe go home, get married, open a dancing school, and be happy. That's really what I wanted. And then I got panic attacks that I'd never had before. I was a happy kid. I was a happy person. I was joyful, but it was gone. And I lost my smile, and I'm not kidding. I tried so hard to pretend that I was happy. But I couldn't go into public because I'd throw up, I'd get dizzy, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. So I just didn't figure it out anymore. I went to a doctor. I took charge at 20 years old. And I went to a doctor, what's wrong with me? And long answer to your question is that I then saw a doctor for 8 years. Not because I was sick for 8 years, but because I was learning so much about my psyche, about just my past, about other people, about not just who I was, but how my brain worked and how my psyche worked and how my psychology worked. And it also helped me when I became very successful, which happened really fast after that. how to deal with people, how to forgive them, how to understand them, how to really be able to know when somebody said, oh, Goldie, I love you, that it was so sweet. But also they could say, I didn't like your performance, I think you're too this. One guy said Goldie's performance was as flat as her chest. But I learned to allow people to be who they were. To say, okay, that's who you are. That's who you are seeing through your eyes. But you don't know me, so it doesn't affect me. I only can look toward you. So today, even today, when people come up and say beautiful things or do stupid things, I'm always happy for them. If they're happy, I'm happy. It's not about me, because they don't know me. They can't judge me. But if that makes them feel happy, that does. What happened to me after that is that I started experimenting. This is how I got into this mental health world. I was so curious about how the brain works. And what happened was I went, for the first time, I decided, oh, it's, this was sort of the Beatles period. Oh my God, it's so long ago. And the Beatles basically, it was all about, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and all of that. So I went and I was at TM, so I was initiated into TM. But that experience, with all that I had been through, and I was still going to see the doctor for my own, what I call university of Goldie, if you will. But I literally sat there at my meditation, and I will never be able to explain that feeling. It just brings me so much joy to talk about it. It was the first time in the silence of my mantra, all the stuff I was supposed to do, and smell of the incense and all this stuff, that I actually could feel my heart beat. I got inside of my center of my truth. And it happened with no words. And then I started looking at, oh my God, what happened to me? I was happy, I was calm, my brain was quiet, and my joy was so much bigger. Oh, I wept because it was so great. And then I started looking into the brain. Because at that point in time, we're starting to look at, neuroplasticity. Oh, what is that? Oh, the brain changes. It continues to change through thought and intention. Am I talking too much?
No.
I don't know, I get on a roll.
No, I love it.
However, that's when I started learning about how the brain worked.
Well, but I've got so many different questions for you on this,
Okay.
because I want to make sure, I want to connect a few things together to understand. And I think about this a lot when we've gotten to know one another. How do you navigate? I mean, I've never thought the world of Hollywood is an easy world to navigate. You've been at the top of it for decades. You were an incredible success as a dancer. How do you navigate those environments and still protect your mental health? And I mean, I think part of it you just alluded to, which is that you know that other people, they are going through their own things. They are going through their own experiences. Yes. And that has nothing to do with you. But how do you inside compete at that level? And this is where I wanted to go with this. Be genuinely nice to yourself. How did you get to that place?
Because I like myself. And if you don't like yourself, you don't know yourself, then you won't get lost. You will always know who you are. And the idea of really focusing on yourself, and I'm not going to call it self-love, let's just call it respect. Look at your integrity. Am I someone that I feel is worthy of this integrity? I believe certain things. Do you stick to your beliefs? Do you stand up for what you believe in? Are you brave? Are you free? And this is one of the areas. I was 23, maybe I was doing laughing, and a woman came up to me and she said, don't you feel, she was not a woman, she was doing like glamour or something, it was an interview. And she said, don't you feel like guilty? Women are burning their bras and everybody's getting liberated now. Remember, that was the liberation period. Right, and I looked at her and I said, oh, but I'm already liberated. And she looked at me. First of all, that came out of my mouth. I did not plan it. I don't know, it just came out. And she looked at me and she said, oh. I said, well, liberation really comes from the inside. And I think that this is part And I've been through hard times, producing, dealing with, certain directing, okay, and dealing with actors sometimes that, weren't always easy. We're looking at, really the world that I grew up in. One time I made a movie, actually it was the one that Kurt and I met on. Well, we met before when he was, that's a whole other story. But where we met and we fell in love, okay, was a film that we did that I sold to Warner Brothers as a producer. At the end of the story, which doesn't go into the big story, but we showed it, and that was the first, what you call the first cut, director's cut. And we're all sitting there with the head of the studio and all of it. And I watched that movie, and I, who was Rosie the Riveter, who was the heroine, ended up being the antagonist. How did that happen? All in editing, all in the director's choice. And you realize, and editing is like the brain. You can edit a brain one way, or you can actually hack the brain and edit in another way. Same thing with movies. You can make a movie unbelievable, something you never thought was going to happen, because you have the best editor. They know just what to cut to. Well, in this film, they knew I was just a horror. I was, excuse my French, but bitch. Can I say that word? But she was really awful. So at the end of the thing, the director said to me, the head of the studio said to me, Goldie, you got to fix this. And I went in, and I was so angry. And I was dysregulated, but I was so angry that I took off, I said, I'm going to take off that stupid wig I had on, I'm going to put on my producer's cap. How dare you? And this is what I did. And I eventually actually apologized. Because sometimes we flip our lid. And I did. So it's not always the perfect idea. Because sometimes we do that. And I apologized to him over the years for that, even though he was in the wrong. But at any rate, but you just accept those things. So we, as we move forward in life, it's sort of like, well, okay, I have never not respected, and we have to each one of us know something before we cut off here, because I know we're getting close.
Well, no, please. Well, and I do want to I want to talk about what would help you with your foundation, MindUP, because I think the work that you do, I remember you came in and I felt so embarrassed when we first met. I said, I'm so glad you're focusing on mental health. And you're like, I've been doing this for over 20 years.
I know.
And I was like, okay, but I think it's really important. This is an audience of people that can help you. And this is a time, and again, going back, why I'm so excited you're here is because you can put things into a perspective that I can't, and the presidents can't, and the CEOs and all those, they can't put it in the perspective you can put it in. What helps you with MindUP? Because its mission is now more important than ever.
Exactly. Well, first of all, what will help me is that a lot of the funding has been taken away from schools, for mental health, and for other things, which breaks my heart. Our children need this more than ever, and anyone who can give to mindup.org would be amazing and very helpful to us. But I just want to explain something to all of you before we leave. And the most important thing that I have learned is that how to self-manage. And I do this with children. I don't do it with the children. MindUP does. But you have to understand that there's 3 parts of your brain, and these 3 parts of your brain is your emotional system. And how you handle it as an adult is the same way as a child. Because the minute you're angry, upset, frustrated, hateful, all these what we consider big and oftentimes very negative emotions, you can either live that way because the brain actually is negative biased anyway, so you can be addicted to all of that, or you can understand these things, because when that happens, you are in alarm. So that midbrain of yours, no matter what it is, I'm going to get up and find out what else he said today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to that person. You're on a loop because the brain thinks the same thing about 80% of the day. To get out of that loop, you have to figure out what's happening to your executive function. And guess what? When that's gone and you're feeling upset or angry or whatever throughout the day, That executive function that you have, which is your thinking, your analyzing, your creative, your critical thinking, all of those things happen right here. That goes dim in an fMRI. Why do we want to dim our thinking brain? Why do we want to dim our creative brain? Why do we want to dim our analyzation and be able to strategy? And for our children, it deals their learning brain. So this is the basis of MindUP. 3 characters: prefrontal cortex, amygdala, and the hippocampus, where we can learn and we call our memory. Just learn those. And the next time you pop off, take about 4 great breaths. Deep, slow, quiet breaths. And know that that has a physiological effect on your brain. Not your brainstem, not regular breathing, because normally it's shallow, and when you're upset, it's faster. Slow down, and then think of what to do. And that's, I think, will help all of us forgive each other and be able to stay calm and get yourself calm. We're all going to get upset, but we owe each other. We can't fix the world, but we can fix ourselves. And that's, I just wanted to share that with you.
And if we fix ourselves, then collectively we fix so many different things. And I think that's a really fantastic note to end this on, because you know, I'm in the middle of running a summit. Everyone here is in the middle of so many stressful things, but to realize that connection point where you lose that function because you are not taking those moments for your brain and thinking of it in that way, I think is really important. And I think for business leaders and political leaders, it's really important if they want better workforces, if they want better populations, better societies. And I don't say this often just because we have, I think now over 600 institutions that are involved in Concordia. And I always have to be careful because they all support us. People need to be supporting you, and they need to be supporting MindUP. And I've spent a lot of time with you to look into this, and you are it is the time, and people need to step up for MindUp.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sweetheart. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. Thank you.